Hello and welcome to the zFairs tutorial for Massachusetts students grades 9 through 12. This slideshow is going to run through the pathway to participation for students, an overview of the paperwork, teacher instructions, and student instructions, both in terms of setting up accounts, uploading paperwork, and marking projects ready for review from teachers. So really quickly, you can have access to these slides. They will be available, but students participate through their school. Affiliation is through the school for students to participate in the regional or state fairs in Massachusetts. You do need to follow the dates for your regional fair to be eligible for the state fair or for ISEF. You can find regional and state information at zFairs at mahs.zfairs.com. To participate in any of the fairs. All students who want to participate do need to create accounts through their teachers with their teacher and school support. The deadlines for participation are December 15th if projects require advanced paperwork and pre-approval, but you should submit them as soon as you are ready because you cannot proceed unless with your experimentation until you have that approval if you are in restricted areas. We encourage all students to submit for approval as soon as they're completed, but no later than January 15th for projects that don't require SRC pre-approval. Projects do need to comply with MSEF rules and research and safety regulations. You can find the manual on our website, on the zFairs page. You do need your adult sponsor, your teacher, and your parent approval before experimenting with any projects, but you do need the SRC approval for projects in restricted areas. Please do consult the MSEF ethics statement, which includes more information about our policy in terms of the use and abuse of artificial intelligence. So please do check that out. And it's really important that teachers mark projects ready for review, which signals to us that it's time to get it in front of a reviewer. So I will go through the specifics of what that looks like and what teachers need to do and how students need to upload the paperwork. If you are a teacher and you're part of a program that has more than 20 or so kids, please let us know. We can help you figure out a few different ways to streamline the process and review deadlines. These are the 6 regions within Massachusetts. You can also find this map at scifair.com/fairs or mahs.zfairs.com on the region and state fair tab. So please check out where your region is. Your affiliation is based on your school address. So before you set up an account, you want to review your Science Fair Ready checklist. That has all the information that you need to participate and the links that are required. You want to make sure you have a topic and a category for your project. Go to the high school manual. The high school manual can be found in a few different places. One big tip, because it's a long document, is to use the Control F or another search function in order to find specific topics or keywords. So that you can navigate that page or that manual with a little bit more ease. You want to determine your project approach, which means drafting your research plan, making sure that the materials and the access you need are there to do your project. You want to make sure you're complying with the timeline as well as safety restrictions. Do coordinate with your teacher and adult sponsor for your project. If you're not sure what adults are doing what with your project, do look at the the role of adults in the manual. And your teacher needs to set up accounts in zFairs first. So I'm going to just go over what type of paperwork we are expecting to see for different projects. So in Massachusetts, we've taken the paperwork that's required or recommended for all projects and put them in one packet. That includes the checklist for the adult sponsor, the student checklist, information about what to make sure you include in your research plan. There's a modified approval form and a risk assessment. Risk assessment is required for some projects, but it's recommended for all projects, and I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. If the following forms are required, it means that pre-approval is required before you can experiment. So again, the risk assessment with some hazardous chemicals, devices, or activities. So things that you might not find at a grocery store or things that require expertise to operate. Those are generally the things that you would need pre-approval for. You might have a qualified scientist form if you needed some advanced supervision. There's forms for human subjects, forms for vertebrate animals, for potentially harmful biological agents and for human and vertebrate animal tissues. There might also be forms that you need if you're doing your project outside of your school or your home, or if you're doing a project that is similar in topic or procedure to what you've done previously. There's no penalty for doing a continuation project, but there is a form that you do need to fill out. Those are needed at the conclusion of your project. Again, the risk assessment, if it's required, it's going to have some additional forms that go with it, and that requires that pre-approval. So the new paperwork package that we launched last year includes this cover sheet with some of the basic information you need, as well as those forms I just mentioned. So two options for this. You can download and fill it out electronically if you have the capacity to do so, or you can print it out and fill it out by hand. You can include some additional documents if you need to, if you need more space, and then scan that to upload. Don't open this as a Google Doc. It makes the formatting all weird. iPads, tablets, Chromebook users might need to print it out. Sometimes the functionality is not there to do embedded text. This paperwork packet includes forms for up to 3 team members if you need it. So obviously, if you're an individual or if you're a team of 2, you just leave some of those forms blank. It does include that modified signature page for permissions, and it includes that cover sheet. What you'll see on this document is that we use no later than deadline. So again, we recommend submitting your paperwork as soon as you have it and you know what you want to do, because sometimes that review process can take some time with back and forth to make sure that you're safe and that you have what you need to be successful. So for any project that's not a pre-approval project, that's not in restricted areas, your no later than date is January 15th. Just remember, it gets really busy right before January 15th, so submit as soon as you are able to. If you require those additional forms because it's in a restricted area, you want to submit no later than December 15th. So we recommend setting a deadline for yourself. What is your target? What is your teacher's target for you? And getting your paperwork in there. Our goal is to get your approval back to you within 2 weeks after that project has been marked ready. However, incomplete paperwork or not hearing back if we have follow-up questions does slow that process down. So I will show you what that process is in a bit. So submit early, please, and keep your eye on your email. So that modified approval form, this is some of the information that's on the ISEF Form 1B. We have modified it for MSEF, so it has some additional signatures. So this requires information about the student, teacher, and adult sponsor, which may be the same person, and the parent signature. So take a look at this. It needs all these signatures on this one page, and you should be reviewing the releases and ethics statement before signing. The FAIR policies are linked on that paperwork packet, but you can also find them at zFair.com/fairs. So the research plan in the paperwork packet, you'll see the instructions of what to make sure you include. We also do have resources that are helpful in terms of breaking down what do you need to include for different types of projects. So please take a look at these. You can copy them and adapt these templates. We just make sure that you are putting enough information. You want to be really thorough in your research plan. So that means things like don't just say, I will dispose according to guidelines, but say how you will dispose of your things in detail at temperature, what equipment, etc., for example. You also want to make sure that your research plan is legible. So if you are typing into an electronic document, make sure the text is not getting too small. If you are scanning forms, make sure that those scans are crystal clear so that they are legible. The risk assessment form, as I said, this is included in the paperwork packet. It is required for some projects. It's recommended for all. So this should show any potential risk beyond everyday activities for the average person. So explain those risks you've identified and the precautions that are in place so the reviewer knows you're accounting for safety. So it might be something that you're really familiar with using or you don't think it requires any sort of assessment or acknowledgement of risk. But putting something down shows the reviewer that you've thought about it and you're taking care with your procedure. So this could be the risks that are physical or psychological. It could be to the environment, to the research subjects, to animals, to yourself. So really think this piece through. There are also some guides that you can use to identify what types of paperwork you are going to need. When you create your account in zFairs, this will all get populated for you, but this is a helpful tool with planning. Okay, teachers. If you have not created an account in mahs.zfairs.com in the past 2 years, you will need to create your account. You have to set up an account before students can create their accounts. This will add you to the mailing list for some announcements and resources from MSEF and from your region. You can find more information on the resources page at zfair.com or on the zFairs page. If you have a large program, let us know and we can help link your accounts together, or we could talk about different ways to streamline the process. If you have any questions at any time, if you're having challenges with what technology you or your students have access to, please do contact us. We have lots of different tricks up our sleeves, but you just need to know what you need and we can try to help. So the role of teachers for the Massachusetts state and regional fairs goes through the teachers. So in most cases, the teacher is also the adult sponsor on the project, but that's not always the case. The teacher specifically has responsibility in terms of making sure the student's following any school policies as well as MSEF policies. It's really about the academic oversight of the project. So you're going to be signing permission on the paperwork packet as the teacher, creating that account, marking it ready for review, which again, I'll show you towards the end of this slideshow, monitoring for communication, both from SRC, but also from the regions and from MSEF around participation. If you need more information about the student eligibility policy, you can find that on our website. Again, Science Fair is based on school affiliation within Massachusetts. So to create an account as a teacher, you're going to go to mahs.zfairs.com and you're going to check teacher in the create account. And then you'll fill out your contact information. Please use an email address you check regularly. If you think school firewalls are going to block your email, either see if you can have the emails whitelisted or contact us or use a personal email. You're going to want to enter your contact information. We would love to have a phone number in case we can't reach you by email for any case, but most of the communication will come by email, either through zFairs or through zfair.com. Usernames and passwords are case sensitive. Once you're past that page, you are going to list your school. So do check if your school goes under a few different names. Do check a few options when you're going through this drop-down list to make sure you find your school. If it's not listed, you can add it or contact us if you're not sure. You will notice as we go through these tabs that you're adding tabs to your account. So when you start navigating zFairs, you want to use sort of the embedded navigation in the system. So either clicking around the tabs or you'll see on the forms, there's ways to exit and move around rather than using the back arrow or the forward arrow on zFairs. It just makes the process easier. The next question is around program size. So if you are the only teacher who supervises or one of several, we would want to know how many students you work with for Science Fair. It's not necessarily just the ones who are planning to go to regional or state fair. We just want to know how big your program is. It helps us with planning and communication. And so please do fill this out. And then there's the agreements page. So you'll want to go through, look this over, make sure you're good with those agreements, and then save and continue in order to confirm your account. So then you'll get your account created email, as well as the final screen will be that account created. So then it's all set and you're ready to let students know they're good to go with creating their account. This instructions to teachers will pick up again at the end of the slideshow or on slide 50 if you're looking at the slides once the students have their paperwork uploaded. Okay, students. Before you set up an account, please do review the ethics statements and the rules. You can do the search function in the high school manual so you can find what rules apply to your project. Look also at the table of contents. You want to make sure your research plan is completed, your other paperwork is in order, and you've coordinated with your teacher. The teacher has to set up their account. You want to know what your project category is, what your draft title for your project is, and just have a short description or a short abstract of your project. You can edit all of those later, but you want a starting place. And then we also need your address, your parent email, and a phone number ready to enter. So you're going to be asked for that, so have it next to you. Also your zip code. If you don't know your zip code, make sure you have that as well. If it's a team project, make sure you've identified who's the team lead. The team lead has to create their account completely start to finish before the rest of you can create your accounts. So make sure they do that first. As a reminder, Chrome is the most reliable browser to use. Okay, students, go into create account and you are a participant. So choose participant from the drop-down menu. And you're going to fill in your information. So if you know that school firewalls block emails from external sources, please do use personal email or parent or teacher email if you have their permission. You can make up a username that you'll remember, and remember that both password and username are case sensitive for when you log back in. If you have two first names you use regularly, you can include them both in here. This doesn't have to be your legal name. It has to be the name that you go by and what you will want on any sort of materials that are published. Enter your personal information. So we do ask for cell phone in case there's a need that we need to get in touch with you and emails aren't working. We also do ask for demographic information like gender and race. On both of those, you do have the option to say prefer not to answer. The photo upload is optional. And again, remember, pick a password that's case sensitive. So if you use upper or lowercase, remember, and you want to make sure you pick one that you'll remember. So enter information here about your parents, their email, their phone number, and then again, your address. So please do make sure you enter a correct zip code. It's really helpful when I do mapping at the end of the year to have correct zip codes. So then you're going to hit save and continue. Okay, so then this is where we'll ask about your school. So you're going to be asked if your school is public or private. So we will ask you to specify, is it public, private, charter, or magnet district or homeschool? And then what town your school serves or what town is your school in. If you are registered as a state-approved homeschool, you participate based on the town where you live. And if you attend virtual schools, you're eligible based on the town where you live. So to start a new entry, either individual or team, or you will link to existing entries. So remember, I mentioned before, you want the team member to start first. So once the team member creates their account, they're going to get a project key. So if you've received a project key from your team members, this is where you would put it. Everyone else will start a new entry. So team leaders start a new entry if they're the first team member who's doing that. So then you're going to select your school and teacher. So again, teachers need to have their account set up first. Then you'll find your school on the list, you'll select your teacher and then select your grade. Remember, you need your teacher to be able to go into their portal and approve your project, so do not choose a teacher unless they know that you're choosing them for this. Put your project category in your category. They can be adjusted later. And then choose that most appropriate category. So think about what type of scientist or engineer would be the best suited to review your project. This can be changed later, about a month out from the fairs if you need to change it later. Then again, if you're the first team member who's creating, if you're the team lead, then you're going to click that, will this be a team project? Don't click that if it's not a team project. If you started as a team project and then immediately change, let us know. You want to write an abstract or a short summary of your project. This could just be about what's the question you want to answer, the problem you want to solve. You'll have time later to go back and flesh this in your profile tab. Then the last question around electrical outlets, they are limited at most of the fairs. So if you think in the future you're going to need electricity if you present at the fair, not for your phone charging, but for your actual activity, then do check that box at this point. This is a new question this year. If you've worked with any adults, mentors, advisors, or parents other than your teacher, describe what you did independently versus collaboratively and include their expertise. So this could be an adult sponsor if they're different than your teacher. It could be a qualified scientist. It could be just someone who helped you get access to something or gave you advice or a mentor. Then you're going to click on the agreements. Please do actually read these. Make sure you know what they mean, what you're signing, and then save and continue so that you can finish your account. You will see a confirmation screen. Your project number and your project ID is here. You have a project key. This project key is what you will use if you are a team project as well. So you're going to get that either through email or save it from this screen. So you will grab that code, you will share that with your team members, and then they can create their accounts. If anyone created a team, if team members created individual accounts and errors, or if individuals created team accounts and errors, please let us know. We can fix that on the back end to avoid confusion later. So now once your account is created, you can log out for now. You don't need to do anything with paperwork, but you want to make sure you go back in within 2 weeks to finish up. Otherwise, you can populate your account with what forms you're going to need. So you can find that by going to My Profile, and you can go, you'll get these little tabs down at the bottom, and you'll go to the MSEF Forms 2026 tab, and that's where you can access the paperwork uploader. So once you're ready with your paperwork and you have everything electronically and ready for upload, ideally have those documents labeled with the number or the type of the form it is with your name so that it's easy to sort through things when you're uploading. These slides are going to describe how to upload those documents. One option is to print them, sign them with pen, scan them, and then upload them again. The other option is to fill them out and sign them electronically. Just make sure that they are legible, make sure that they're not blurry, make sure the file size isn't more than 20 megabytes. Please do this within 2 weeks of creating your account and well in advance of the deadlines. So to access your form wizard, as I said, you're going to go to that My Profile page and you'll see all these tabs. Go to MSEF Forms 2026. And first time you log in, this forms wizard will pop up and it will ask you details about your project. If you're not sure what these mean, or if you think your project is in one of the exempt areas and doesn't require this more advanced paperwork, check that all out in the manual. Let us know if you have questions, but check the boxes if any are relevant and then save and close. Use these tabs to navigate rather than the back button in your browser. Once you've selected those boxes on the Forms wizard, it will tell you what forms you need. Everyone will have the MAHS paperwork packet and the research plan box. If you've made an error or need to make a change, you can go to Show Form Wizard, or you can also show hidden files if you know that there are additional forms that you need. If it says required, it means it's required, so you're going to want to make sure you fill those out. Again, Form 3 is also in your paperwork packet. You don't need to fill it out both places if it's required, but you can just for thoroughness. So when you open one of those boxes, it's going to either show you the form or it'll tell you that no file is uploaded. If you don't already have a copy of the file, you can download the file here. Again, if you're downloading and filling things out electronically, just make sure that the typeset's not getting too small so that people can't read it. You're going to upload the file and choose which file you want. So again, close and back to go back to that main screen as opposed to the back arrow. So when you open that file, if you need access to what the form looks like, if you don't already have it, you would open that download blank file. A page like this will come up. You can download it here, you can print it here. Then you're going to choose your file once you've saved it to your desktop. Make sure, again, my tip for you is put the number of the form, put your name, so that when you're going through this process, you can choose easily which form you want. Then you're going to upload the file. It'll give you a little preview of what it looks like, and then you can confirm. And then on your dashboard, it will say file's been uploaded. Once it's uploaded, take a look at it. Make sure it's actually there. Make sure it's legible. And then once all your forms are submitted, let your teacher know that you're ready for review. We do recommend that you download and save every form that you've uploaded. You want to save those because you might want them later, or you might later this year, or you might want them in the future. If your project's in the restricted area, again, remember that Form 3 risk assessment, both the Form 3 and Form 2 might be require the required tag. You don't need to fill out Form 3 again if you already did. But you do need to submit for pre-approval before beginning experimentation. Form 1C, which is shown here, or Form 7 aren't needed until the end of your project, so you don't need to submit those for pre-approval timeline. However, your reviewer may ask questions about them. So in order to receive project approval, once you're all uploaded, communicate with your teacher, not your adult sponsor if they're different. Communicate with your teacher and let them know you're ready for review. Teachers will review the paperwork, confirm completion, and then click that Mark Ready button. Though that button should not be checked unless the paperwork is complete. It makes the process longer for everyone if we have to have a lot of back and forth for incomplete paperwork. The SRC will review the project, will reach out with questions, so keep an eye on your emails and on your dashboard. Projects that have additional forms do need to wait for approval before your experiment can begin. If you're struggling with account creation or paperwork, do email us and we can help out. You do need to work with your teacher or your adult sponsor. And I can't emphasize enough that complete and thorough research plans will speed up the process, minimize back and forth, and just make a stronger project for you overall. Uploading and creating an account in zFairs is what you need to be eligible to participate, but it's not registration for the fair. That will come later through your teacher to find out which students are participating in the fair events. Okay, teacher review. So once the students tell you their project's ready for review, you can review their project in zFairs dashboard to let us know that it's good to go. So you can also make adjustments if you need to on their paperwork or remind them they need to. But you must check that Mark Ready button for us to assign it to a reviewer. If you are a department head and there's many teachers at your school who are supporting projects, you can ask us to create your account into a department head account so you can see all the projects regardless of which teacher they're assigned. And again, Chrome is the most reliable browser to use. So this is what your dashboard will look like when you log in. You can have access to your participant list, but the only thing you really need to do is this review page. So I'm going to show you the My Students page or the participants list. You can click on the icon, this pop-up will come up, and you can edit or view things with your student. But what you do need to do is go to the review page. When you go to the review page, you will see any of the projects in your school or that report to you. They'll look like this. So if it's blue, it means the student has uploaded paperwork. If it's gray, it means they have not. RP stands for research plan. MAHS is the paperwork packet, and then the other ones are the different names of the forms. So you will want to look and see whether or not this is complete. Sometimes students will combine all their paperwork in one packet and just upload one. This is fine. It makes it a little more complicated for us to see at a glance if all the paperwork is there. So just try to communicate that with us if it's not all filled out. So once they've uploaded their paperwork, check for completeness and legibility and click on the box to open the viewing window. So once we open that viewing window, this project's an example of an approved project right up here at the top. So you see the green check mark, which means it's approved. The teacher had already marked this ready for review, and then it has the approved right here on the clipboard. When you look, if this Mark Ready button is not correct or not clicked and you've looked and the paperwork is complete, then you will click that. So when you click on one of those boxes, if you need to make changes, if the students don't have everything they need to, you can go back to their MSEF forms and you can make some adjustments there. But once you click on those boxes when they have paperwork, you're going to look in the uploaded file section. You can take a look. You'll see here under number 1, the text got way too small because it was filled in to a small box. So we want to avoid having paperwork like that. You can navigate across the different forms at the bottom right, and then you want to X out of this form to go back to the main screen. You can digitally sign some of these forms, but you don't need to. All you're doing right here is you're just checking for completion and eligibility. You don't need to or shouldn't do any comments, notes, or change the form status. So again, you're not changing anything on that page, you're just looking for completeness. Make sure the text and the signatures are there, and then once you've reviewed each form, you can use the icons, click them back and forth, and then X to mark out. You're going to click your Mark Ready button, and then keep an eye on your dashboard and your email, including your spam folders in case there's any follow-up. You can always go back in and check the approval status. In the dashboard, I showed you an example of what this would look like. You will have at least one green check on the research plan. It'll say approved on the little clipboard, and you know that project is ready to go. If there's a red exclamation mark, it means it requires attention. Hopefully you received emails about that, but if not, you can go into the document and you can look at comments to see what the conversation has been with the reviewer. And that's it. There's many steps to the process, but we are here to help you. Please do reach out if you have questions and we will help you navigate the system. So thank you so much and have a great fair year.